Your 20s are some of the most craziest years of your entire life. Like, so much stuff happens when you're in your early 20s. You might get a job for the first time, you might start your career, you might go to university, you might get fired or hired, and you can make some of your biggest financial mistakes in your 20s. They're also a decade of opportunity where, if you do the right things, you can really set your future self up. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. 7 life-changing money moves that you need to be making in your 20s. And if you're not in your 20s, these are money moves that you can still make as well. So hi guys, welcome back to Shackles of Debt. My name is Tembi, and on this channel I talk about money and finances, and I also talk about my life here in New Zealand. If this is your first time here, then welcome. It is really nice to have you. If this isn't your first time here, then thank you so much for coming back. The first life-changing money move that you can start doing as soon as possible is to start saving up for retirement. Now, I know as young people we might think, oh my god, retirement is like so far away. The age of 65 or 70 is so far away. Like I said, I've got like a good 40 years. I don't even need to start thinking about retirement or aging or anything like that. But actually you are completely wrong. The best time to start saving for retirement is now. And when I mean now, I mean as early as possible, as soon as possible. And why is that? There are several reasons. The first reason is that when you get to your 60s or 70s, you still have a lot of time left. Life expectancy these days, especially if you're living in the Western world, is high. So if you, let's say, retire at 65, which is the traditional age that people tend to retire at, you might find yourself living for another like 20 or 30 years, well into your 80s and 90s, and you need to have money that's going to last you for those 20 or 30 years. The second reason is that older people tend to have more health conditions and they tend to need more care in order to survive. So you never know, you might need to get carers, you might be in hospital for a while. So you need to make sure that you've got enough money to not only sustain you, but enough money to be able to take you through all of those things. In addition, if you're lucky enough to live in a country in which the government provides some sort of retirement payment to their residents who are older, you might find that that money is not really enough to live and survive on. And not only to just live and survive on, but to live and survive on comfortably. So the best thing that you can do for yourself is to start saving early. The next big money move that you can make in your 20s is to start practicing living below your means and also avoiding lifestyle creep. Now, what is lifestyle creep? Lifestyle creep is what happens when you get a bit of extra money that might come from like, a raise at work or anything, but basically you then adjust your lifestyle to then match the amount of money that you're now earning. So let's say you were earning $60,000 a year, and and this money was enough to get you by. It was enough for you to pay your rent, your mortgage or whatever. And let's say that you get like a $20,000 pay rise, so you're now earning $80,000. So because you've got this extra money in the bank, you might think, oh my god, I've got more money. So you might go and buy another car, you might move into a bigger apartment, and all of this costs a lot more money. So now your expenses are catching up to your income. But the important thing is that to always just maintain your lifestyle where it is. And if you earn more money, then you should invest or save it or put it somewhere into your future, because if you're not careful, you will find yourself being broke no matter how much money that you earn. And there's no better time to start practicing this than in your 20s, because in your 20s you do go through quite a lot of fluctuations in terms of your income. You might go from being a student and having absolutely nothing to like maybe like a graduate job to then maybe like a proper career to being a manager. So all of these things that you're going through in your 20s is good practice for when you get older, that learn to live within your means, try not to spend more than you earn, and this will avoid a scenario in which you find yourself living paycheck to paycheck no matter how much money you earn. The next big money move that you can make in your 20s is to either avoid getting into debt in the first place, or if you do have any debts, is to clear them off. Why is this important? It's important because having debt is something that definitely hinders people from achieving their financial goals. So you want to avoid bad debt in the first place. So by bad debt, I'm talking about unsecured debt, which is debt that's not necessarily tied up to anything, or uncontrolled credit card debt, or debt that doesn't give you any assets whatsoever. And if you are going to get into any debt whatsoever, make sure that it is debt that can get you an asset. Like for example, you might take out a business loan to start a new business, which is an asset, which would be really good for you. Or you can get a mortgage to buy a house, which can be an asset, depending on who you ask. So just be careful about the amount of debt that you get into. And if you are someone at the moment who is struggling with debt, there are so many different methods and ways in which you can use to get yourself out of debt. You know, there are things like the debt snowball, there are the debt avalanche, there are individual volunteer agreements, and some people even resort to bankruptcy. So make sure that you don't let debt get in the way of you achieving some of your financial goals in your 20s. The next big money move that you need to start in your 20s is to create an emergency fund. Now, why is an emergency fund important? An emergency fund is very, very, very important because you will need it in the case of an emergency. Now, life happens. Life can come at us from so many different ways. We don't know when we might lose our job. We don't know when, I don't know, your car is likely to break down. And in 2020, when the pandemic first broke out and everyone had to stay at home and millions of people lost their jobs, you know, the people that had the emergency funds, you know, were able to like weather the storm compared to people who didn't have emergency funds. So how much money should be in your emergency fund? Well, as a general rule of thumb, people recommend, you know, between 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. So by expenses, I mean things that you absolutely need to survive. So that'll be like, you know, your housing, your transportation, your food, your utility costs. You should have ideally 3 to 6 months worth of this money in your emergency fund. Now, if you don't even know where to begin, you can start off with as little as like, you know, $100 emergency fund, and then you can eventually build that up and build that up and build that up. However, the amount that will be in your emergency fund is absolutely up to you. Start working towards that. And the best time is in your 20s because you still have the time horizon, you still have the opportunities, you still have the room to make mistakes. And for most of you out there, you're still living with your parents, so you still do have like a safety net. The next big money move that you need to start making in your 20s, if you're not already doing so, is to create multiple streams of income and also to just not rely on your day job as your main source of salary. With the rising cost of living and with the amount of money that it just takes to survive these days because everything's so expensive, a lot of people are turning to side hustles or an extra source of income in order to get through that. And that's something that I'm also doing as well. You know, I'm building this YouTube channel so it can be a secondary source of income, and my actual day job is that I work as a nurse. And there are several things in which you can do in order to create that secondary source of income. You know, if that's not a second job, you can start something online, you can start selling things online. But basically, multiple streams of income allow you to make more money. And when you can increase your income, then that means you've got more money to save, you've got more money to invest, you've got more money to put towards like, you know, your overall general financial goals. So yes, start getting serious about creating multiple sources of income. The next big money move that you need to start making is to start investing in the stock market. And why is investing in the stock market so important? That's because you earn bigger and better interest rates in the stock market compared to if you put your money in a traditional bank. So whereas a traditional bank might have, like, let's say a 2% interest rate on your money, in contrast, the S&P 500, which is an index fund full of the 500 biggest companies in America, has got an average rate of about 8% return a year. And investing in the stock market is one of the best surefire ways that you can actually make sure that you have enough money for when you get older, because the more money your time stays in the stock market, the more opportunity it has to grow, and eventually when you do get older, let's say retirement age, you can find yourself with like 10 times more money than you initially invested. The last money move that you need to make in your 20s is to make sure that you are taking care of your credit and your credit score. That's because your credit score is a big indicator of your financial health. It tells lenders how responsible you are with money, and the better your score, the easier it is for you to be accepted for new lines of credit. And don't forget that landlords and utility companies also utilize your credit score in order to determine what amount of money you should pay or whether or not you're suitable for, you know, a certain house or like a certain position. So take care of your credit. You know, I have made some mistakes in the past which really negatively impacted my credit score, especially in the UK. It's gonna take a while for those to get fixed, and I'm trying not to make those same mistakes here in New Zealand. But wherever you are, just make sure that you take care of your credit. Make sure that you always pay your bills on time. Make sure you don't miss any payments. Make sure that you're not making too many inquiries for new credit. And by that, I mean you're not applying for new lines of credit back to back to back to back. And also just make sure that you review your credit reports. So what other money moves are you making, whether or not you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s? In fact, I want to hear from older people. What money moves did you make when you were younger which have allowed you to have the financial life that you have right now? I want you to let me know down in the comment section down below. Let's have a conversation. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, then please please give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Thank you for watching. And yes, I will see you in the next video. Bye.